Well, my guests today have inhabited the world of the last son of Krypton for some time now. First for 10 seasons of the hit show Smallville, now as co-hosts of the upcoming Smallville review podcast, Talkville. They are Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum. Gents, welcome to Comic Book Central.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being, look, it's the chemistry, right? It's like you guys have this sort of, well, first of all, Michael, welcome back to the show. You're a regular here. So Tom, you're the new guest. I finally get to cash in on this. Tom, he wrote on here, look, looking forward to joining you on the podcast.
I knew this was in our future.
Your dream came true. I told him to write that. I know. It's okay. It's okay. I appreciate it anyway. Look, you guys have this chemistry thing kind of going on. I always get like this because now there's like Smallville nights. You guys are doing conventions together. I kind of get like a Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis vibe going on. Is that?
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Who's who?
Yeah. On the show, we talked about this before, but like on the show on Smallville, Tom was working so much. The last thing he wanted to do was hang out with people from the show. So we weren't really tight, but we had a really good appreciation for each other. We got along really well. But when the show ended and we separated ourselves from the show a little bit, that's when our friendship kind of grew. We started getting ideas and working together, doing cons, doing the Smallville nights at the cons. We're trying to do an animated series right now with the creators. And now this Talkville podcast, which airs every Wednesday. So, the sky's the limit. We just keep thinking of stuff and we're like, hey, why not? We enjoy working with each other. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. And Tom, at a certain point, if you're lucky, you get to work with people that you like. And when all those people passed, I called Michael and I was like, are you available? And he said, yes.
Exactly.
There's the odd couple dynamic coming in. Tom asked which one is Dean Martin and which one's Jerry Lewis. Yes, Tom, go figure it out.
Yeah.
I want to see Tom in a tuxedo and hold a martini. And you guys should do variety shows like they had in the 70s. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Okay. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask all my other fellow podcasters who decide to take on additional shows. What are you thinking? Do you not know how much work this is? You know from inside of you how much work this is.
It's a lot of work, but we have a great team. We have our producer, Bryce, and we have our engineer, Ryan, and we have our editor, Jason, and everybody's working really well together. And so we just kind of watch the episodes, show up, and kind of just really talk about, dissect the episodes. And look, it is a lot of work. We're doing a Patreon. We're doing all these things. There's merch. But at the same time, you have folks that, do all that stuff for you. So you could come in and just enjoy each other and enjoy the time you have on the show and talking about each episode. So it is going to be a lot of work. It's a little daunting, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've already shot a couple. We have a blast doing it. Revisiting these old episodes is crazy. I feel like, we're a fan this time around because I didn't watch a lot of them, as Tom will make, jokingly say that I didn't always watch the episodes, but now I'm forced to watch them, and it's kind of cool.
I talk to actors and they say it's like some actors can watch their own work, some can't watch. I guess as directors, Tom, you directed like 7 of the episodes. Can you watch your own work, or was that a thing back in the day where like you couldn't watch these and now you have to?
Well, I watched a lot of them back then. I was trying to learn what I was doing or what was working, what the editors were choosing. And then as I became a producer on the show, I would give some probably basic notes on what I thought about episodes. So I had seen them all, but so much time had passed that I watch them now and I don't always know what's going to happen. But what I'm surprised is the memories that do come back. I can't watch the show the night before. I have to watch it either like the day before or the morning before because I'll have work dreams. Like it's really crazy.
He gets nightmares. Smallville gives him nightmares after all these years.
But weren't you working like 6 a.m. to like 1 a.m. and then you would kind of do the Michael J. Fox thing where you get like a couple hours sleep and then you go right back? Like, I would imagine PTSD from Smallville, right?
There was, at least for 2 years afterwards. I mean, I ran away for sure from the whole thing. But, there were times where I was like, you guys, why do I have to go back home? Can I just sleep in the trailer? I'll gain 3 hours on my day. And they're like, it's an insurance thing. I'm like, can we fix that? Because I can just live in the trailer and be happy and I get 3 hours more sleep. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stories that come up. And I do joke with Michael a lot because he's like, what's going on here? Because Lex isn't in the scene, so Michael doesn't know what's happening. Because Lex didn't know what was going on around him, but he was so intuitive, he could navigate and manipulate everyone.
Yeah, he was always checking things on the laptop and then shutting it down. Look, I got the Blu-ray set here. This was nice that they came out the 20th anniversary. Is this what you guys are watching?
No, I watch it on Hulu.
Hulu. Okay. Well,
But you
go
can
buy the
watch it on
Blu-ray.
that as well. You can watch it on the
Yeah.
Blu-ray set as well.
But
What I've found is when people watch them, when people watch it on Hulu, I think a lot of the times they get the sense that maybe the visual effects don't hold up as well. But if you watch on the DVDs, they do. And I think that's one difference if you're looking to
Blu-ray.
watch a show again on the Blu-ray. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The effects hold up even better on DVDs because you have that sort of grainy thing.
Graininess. That's true. That's true. I didn't think about that.
There's a reason my DVDs are still good in my collection. Yeah, guys, there's 217 of these, right?
Yeah.
I thought you're committed. I know. Rosenbaum's committed. Welling, are you committed?
I mean, look, here's the goal, Joe. The goal is to enjoy ourselves, to do every episode, and see where it takes us. Like to look at 17. I like to look at it as one at a time, and let's have some fun and let's do this. But it's daunting when you look at all the episodes.
Well, also the beauty is with the success and experience that Michael's had with his podcast and setting up his team. It's simple, at least for me, to participate. And the thing that we have going for us is we have 217 episodes to talk about. Other people have to figure out what they're going to talk about. We're just going to talk about.
I get it. There's 217 ready to go. I just want to make sure you know what pod fading is, right, Tom? Like you know what that is now.
Oh, it's like then you end up having to do the podcast with your shirt off to get viewers and that kind of thing.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
What is that, Joe? What is podcast fading?
When you get bored with the podcast and you just there's a month that goes by and 2 months it goes, and then we never hear from you again. So we're expecting 217 reviews. I'm just
let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Take it one day at a time, Joe. It is overwhelming when you say 217, but that's the plan. And we are willing to do this as of now.
If you get a little bored, give me a call. I'll review one for you. That'll be
great. We're gonna
it'll be like Johnny Carson when Johnny Carson would take a month off. They'd come in and these are old references. Okay, how can listeners jump in? Do they ask you questions? Do they watch it? How's that work?
Yeah, we have a hotline. We have a hotline that they can call if you listen to the episode. It will show a number that you can call and leave quick questions. We don't want people leaving 2-minute answers or 2-minute questions going, so I'm just deleted. You got to be quick, 20 seconds at most. Get in there, get out. If you want to be on the air, get your questions in, be quick, have a good question. I'm being diligent about this.
I'll take that advice right now. I'll keep my questions. I love how John Schneider is your dad in the finale said, always hold on to Smallville. You guys have done that. So thank you for doing that. That's proved to be prophetic. Michael, we've already got some background on you. I want to get a little background on Tom before we jump back into Smallville. How did you get into acting? Who were your influences growing up? Who inspired you for that? Did you groove on comic books growing up? I don't probably didn't, right?
I was able to get into acting through trying to go out for commercials. And I had an agent who then was like, hey, why don't you go try this? I'd done some theater as a kid, sort of got away from that and got into sports. And I had a really good audition for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where I was offered a holding deal, which just as I got into it, didn't seem like a good idea at the time. Moved to LA, started auditioning, and 10 months later got Smallville. After being on Judging Amy, which was where I felt like I learned a lot in a couple episodes, especially with her guidance. And then Smallville was, I got very, very fortunate that it happened so quickly.
How familiar were you with the Superman mythology? And I asked that because there's always, as you can see behind me, there's always the specter of Christopher Reeve looming over the world of Superman. It's like, there was that in your DNA at all?
To me, Superman was Chris in the movies. I don't think I'd ever seen or read a comic book, but the lens that I looked through was that was an advantage because I was playing the kid before the guy. And so like when Martian Manhunter showed up on Smallville, I had no idea who he was. I didn't, and neither did Clark. It was perfect. And he's like talking to me about all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out. So I think it worked to my benefit, not knowing.
And we've talked a little bit about this, Michael, but as far as the history of Lex, did you feel the weight, or either of you feel the weight of decades of these characters and expectations? Did you come in, or was it just like, come on, we got a job to do, just get in there?
I think I was lucky. I think we were all lucky because social media hadn't blown up yet. And so for those first few years, it was hard to go online and find what people thought or were saying about you. So it made it more difficult in 2001, I think, when we started. So, again, like Tom, I wasn't I didn't read comics. I was a big Fangoria fan. I read horror magazines, and like I watched horror movies. But for me, it was just kind of like be sincere. That's what got me the role of just being vulnerable, real, intense, and doing that and carrying that throughout the show. But I wasn't. I mean, I was a little intimidated, but not as much as I would have been if I would have seen all these posts saying, "Who is this guy? They're putting him as Lex Luthor. This is the worst casting blunder of all time." I was a little sensitive. I would have been sensitive to that.
I know that as social media came online, I know the producers started looking and listening to what maybe was out there through some version of a lens. And we always had studio and network notes from the beginning. But I'll real quickly about reading too many comments. Not long ago, I looked up top 10 because we didn't know how many episodes we were going to do this podcast. And we were like, maybe 10, maybe we'll do a 10 of the best. So I looked up the 10 best episodes of Smallville. And one of the episodes on there was Red. So then I looked up, and obviously I'm in all the episodes, but then I looked at the 10 worst episodes, and Red was on that list as well. And I was like, what is going on out there? So we have fun. We critique our episodes. We make fun of each other. We make fun of other characters. We talk about behind the scenes things and try to answer some fun questions that from the fans that spark our interest as well, because they ask some cool questions.
But isn't that the beauty of fandom, is that somebody's favorite episode could be somebody's least favorite episode, and we get your perspective on it. It's almost a fresh perspective because it's been so long ago that you probably forgot these things, and you're like, oh, and that sparks the reminders. You mentioned you're a few episodes in. What's surprising you the most? That pilot is just knocked out of the park from beginning to end. But what's surprising you most as you're for both of you as you're beginning this rewatch?
I'd say I appreciate the storytelling. Sometimes I really can appreciate the effects, because the effects were top notch at that time period, and the character development. Look, the freak of the week stuff, I definitely noticed that, and we talk about it. And Tom's a little more lenient than I am, but we definitely discussed that. And there's some episodes where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that brought a little emotion to me, or so it's kind of crazy what the show is doing to me when I'm rewatching it now.
Yeah, I find that I'm constantly reminded now how grounded some of the choices are in the acting and in the storytelling. It's not always what I think is going to happen because I haven't remembered every scene. So it's always a fun little surprise, and I get to see all my friends as younger people, which is fun.
You walked me into it, because Tom, this has to be tricky for you, because you're almost watching you learning the craft of acting. Like you mentioned, there's just a few episodes of Judging Amy. You're right into Smallville as one of your first roles, coming out of modeling and commercials. That's got to be challenging for you to go. I mean, it's like watching Tom grow up on camera. In a sense.
It's definitely watching Tom and Clark grow up together, and hopefully we'll see some progression. Because at the beginning, it serves me and the character very well that Clark really doesn't know what's going on, and he's just trying to figure out who he is. And over the course of all these episodes, maybe we'll see some growth. Hopefully, if there's not, I'll be like season 3 on the podcast. I'll be like, what the hell was I doing? I didn't learn a thing in 3 seasons or whatever.
I was so tired.
Yeah,
what cast members can we expect will be joining you on this ride?
I'm sure a lot of them. Kristen Krug, I'm sure we'll get John Schneider, Glover, eventually. A lot of the main cast, I think we'll try to get on the podcast for sure. We've already gotten one of them on the first few. Some guest stars, hopefully, some costume people, some makeup, maybe effects. We'll see what happens. But the show really is about me and Tom and us dissecting these episodes. So we don't rely on guests like my Inside You podcast, where I have to get a guest every week, and it's very difficult to do that. This really is just relying on each other for some good banter.
I'm almost looking forward to your castmates telling stories about you, though. I think that would be interesting too. Like, remember when you did this? Like, oh my God, you said the quiet part out loud. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about working with Christopher Reeve, because you're going to get to those episodes.
That actually happened. When
yeah.
said, oh, this is the scene where you didn't know your lines. And I was like, what? And I had one line in like the whole scene. And I'm like, you're telling me I didn't remember that? I just remember it being difficult for you. And I was like, what are you talking about? What's one line? So that does come up. Yeah.
Do you remember, what was the line? What was the line you forgot?
Well, I don't remember it now.
All right. I thought it
give
would
it
be
away.
burned in your mouth.
Joe.
It was in a limousine. I'll tell you that.
All right. Working with Christopher Reeve. I mean, just Tom, did he give you any advice? And just what was that experience like for you? Because that's your Superman. That's our Superman, right?
Yeah, I mean, he set such a high standard when I was working with him. I mean, given the condition and his limitations, he still just rocked the scene. And he did say to me at the time we were finishing, he said, you know, I'm really glad they chose you to be the next Superman. And I kind of turned to him, I go, well, they didn't, because I wasn't going to be in the Brandon Routh movie. I was still in Smallville. And he said to me, he goes, well, they should have. And I still get chills when I tell that story. But
close to it though, wasn't there, like, you were almost, didn't you try out for it? I read something somewhere. There was something that around 2000-ish.
It's a tricky thing where there was a conversation of whether or not I would do it. And my answer was, is that an offer? And they said no. And I said, well, I'm not going to answer you then. And I was on Smallville then, and you know, whatever. And it really came down to they weren't going to cancel Smallville for me to go off into a Superman movie for a year and a half.
Yeah.
They just weren't. So it really wasn't an option. And maybe if I said yes, it would have been different. Who knows? But whatever.
You both directed episodes of Smallville. So when we get to those, are you looking forward to those, or are you kind of dreading those, or is it a combo platter?
I'm looking forward to it and seeing what we did and see if we can appreciate it now. And, you know, they're choices. You make choices, and, you know, that's what it is. I mean, you have to let it go at this point, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see the episode that I'm directing, and Tom's as well.
Yeah, and again, you know, Michael's seeing a lot of this for the first time, so it's really fresh eyes.
What does director Tom, what advice does he have for actor Tom?
Well, on the podcast, we haven't got there yet. But it's, you know, I've never directed anything that I haven't been the lead in, because I've only directed Smallville episodes. But I made the mistake early on I didn't realize I was doing like the normal number of takes on the other cast members, whether it's 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. But I caught myself doing 1 or 2 takes of myself because I didn't want to be egotistical. And we had a great producer at the time who called me up right before my second episode. He goes, you have to do the opposite. You have to do 4 or 5 takes of you, and maybe only 1 or 2 of the other if you're at a time, because, you know, you're doing double things. But we had great DPs. We had great people around us who sometimes, even the wardrobe guy, would sometimes walk up and just be like, you should do that again. Or Michael, would be in a scene with Michael, and I'd say something, and he'd just kind of give me this look, and I go, let me say that again. So we had a good foundation. We had a lot of a good support team on the show that was able to maintain a quality control and sort of just, you know, elevate the material as much as we could. And that's your job as an actor and as a production.
Similar with you, Michael, for directing, similar advice, or again, what advice would you give your actor self?
What say that again? You cut out.
What advice does director Michael Rosenbaum have for actor Michael Rosenbaum?
Relax.
Just relax and let it happen. Let it happen. You got this. You know what you're doing. We're going to do it until we get it right. We'll mix it up. You have time. You don't have to rush it. You know, I think if you tell actors that, you know, they always say that the best advice I got was like, never give an actor more than 2 notes per take. So don't go in and go, all right, you need to be faster on that line. You need to move your arm. I want you to move to the table. And then I want you to you can't go on, because by the second note, they've forgotten what they're going to do. So you just say, I want you to just do this and try this. And then the next time after they get that, give them 2 notes. And that really does help. I noticed that helped with a lot of actors.
You do the George Lucas School of Directing, faster and more intense. That's all he ever said.
Yeah, that's what he does.
What we love about Smallville is the fact that it did lay the groundwork, it laid the foundation for the Arrowverse that we see today, this sort of hyper-realism superheroes. Are both of you fans of those shows, of the Arrowverse shows, like Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, those things?
Well, in fact, once we're finished Smallville, we're going to do a podcast where we critique all those other episodes of all this other shows.
You know, I can appreciate them, and I always say that we were the first one. We got it all started, and you know, I respect all those shows, but I never really got it. I've never been as much into superheroes again as I was into horror. So those aren't shows that I watch consistently. I'm more of a Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, those kind of shows. But they do a really good job. All the shows, the production level and the actors, they do a really fantastic job.
Yeah, I know you James are doing a lot of rounds of press today talking about the podcast. I'm going to close out with a Smallville speed round if you guys are ready for it.
Oh boy, good luck.
Favorite episode of Smallville for both? Go.
Transference.
Michael.
Lexness.
Episode or moment that makes you cringe?
Oh, geez,
moment we just watched where I have like coffee on the top of my mouth in that scene in the coffee shop, and I just was like, oh my god, what kind of choice was that, dude? And I didn't like it.
That's my favorite worst moment too.
Okay.
Actor that could never remember their lines.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Yes, you can.
Well, there was one guy. All our cast was really good. Our cast was really good. Everybody has their off days or whatnot. I remember there were two times where I showed up and I just thought we were doing a different scene, and I was like, uh-oh. And it was like speed learning or whatever. But you kind of put all the wagons in a circle, and everybody goes, all right, let's figure this out. But that's pretty good for 217 episodes. So
yeah.
Actor most likely to break up and ruin a take?
I mean, I could break up real easy, but it was only because of you most of the time. So
yeah, you broke me up too. It was either me or Tom, for sure.
You were both the problem. Favorite non-Christopher Reeve guest star?
Oh man, there's so many.
That is a tough one. Amy Adams was great.
Yeah. I really liked it. I liked it when Tom Wopat was on because I got to see him and John Schneider sort of like
being the good old
throw it out.
The Duke reunion.
Yeah.
Quick 3-parter for Tom. Smallville finale. Did you have any of the suit on?
No, not the whole thing.
Just the shirt.
Yeah.
Batwoman. Was there ever a consideration that you would put the suit on?
It never came. It was never. They never asked.
Present day. Would you put the suit on?
Not this second.
Would soon?
Not this second.
Would you consider putting the suit on soon?
I probably need a couple months to get ready.
Right.
But I think I'm more open to it now than I was ever then, and probably because I have two sons now, and I think like it might be cool for them to see that.
We're gonna take that as a yes. Smallville animated series. You referenced it. Where does it stand? We're getting it.
We're working on it. It's going to take time. These things take a lot of time. But we have a meeting with Alan Miles, creator of Smallville, that we pitched them to. They love the idea. We're working with them. We'll see what happens.
Closing it out. What does Smallville mean to both of you?
It was the biggest part of my life. I mean, it was the most success I've ever had. Gave me the opportunity to do other things. I met lifelong friends. It was a real experience that I'll never forget.
The first thing that came to mind was the word opportunity, and it still is. It just opened up doors to everything I am and have now.
Tom, Michael, thank you for 10 seasons of incredible episodes, and thank you for this podcast where we can revisit those 10 years along with you. We hope we get them all. That'd be great. We're looking forward to watching the show back again with you. Continued success. Hope to meet up with you again at a con pretty soon for some Smallville nights, and take care, both of you.
Thanks, Joe. You're the best, buddy. I appreciate you. Talkville every Wednesday. We'll see you guys.